In Module 2, Lesson 2, we're going to start talking about transformations. And transformation is just changing the place of an object on a plane to a different place, an object on a plane. And the transformations we're dealing with are going to preserve distance, meaning they're not going to distort the object. It's not going to make the object bigger or smaller, it's just going to move the object. The first one that we're learning about today is called a translation. It's kind of like a slide. When we slide something to the left or to the right or up and down, it is called a translation. And more specifically, we're going to do translations along a vector. And the first thing I want to mention is what is a vector. So if I, draw a this is a vector, and we'll call it we call this vector AB. We call it vector AB because it's always directional. The A, we start at A and we're going towards B. We're going with the arrow. So that's vector AB, and we write it like this. Okay, and when we talk about a translation, we write translation and AB, vector AB kind of goes in the bottom like a subscript. Okay, if we have a vector going the other way, that would be vector, that would be vector BA, because we're going from point B towards point A. So that would be vector BA. And vectors have a certain distance and they have a direction. So it looks very similar to array, but this is a vector. It's telling me a direction to go and it's telling me how far to go. So I'm going to pull up a really neat app, which I'm going to hopefully get on your Chromebooks, called GeoGebra. And GeoGebra is a really neat tool where we can do some of these fancy transformations on GeoGebra. So what you do is you pull it up on your app store in Chrome, and you're going to go to geometry. And I'm going to draw a few things. So let's do a point. Let's just draw a point. So there's point A, and sometimes you have to tell it to show the label. Okay, so there's point A. And then I want to draw a vector. So you can click on this one, and there's all sorts of things you can draw. But here's a vector. All right, and then that might be, let's see if I can label that as well. So this is vector BC. And it has a distance, a certain distance, and it has a name, vector BC. Now what we can do is we can translate, because that's what we're working on today is translations. We can translate by a vector. I'm going to show you what that looks like. So if you go to translate by a vector, you can click on the vector and you can click on the point. Let's try that one more time. All right, translate by a vector. Select object to translate. So we're going to select the point first and then the vector. Oh. All right, let's try this one more time. It's a little tricky. There we go. Okay. So what happens is you end up moving A to A prime, or mapping A to A prime. And if you notice this vector, I can actually just kind of slide it down here and the points overlap because that vector told us the distance and the direction. So if I were to drag that vector down, that should happen every time. It's distance preserving, meaning the same distance. No matter where I put this on the screen, to put it over here or down here or over here, it doesn't change where A maps to. A maps to A prime. Okay. And it maps along vector BC. More importantly, we can actually do, can open a new one. You're absolutely allowed to save save your work on GeoGebra, but you don't have to. Let me try translating a polygon. Oops. Try that again. Regular polygon. And then you can tell the number of vertices. So I'm going to say 3. So I'll make a triangle. And furthermore, an equilateral triangle. And then you can take a vector and draw a vector. And it doesn't have to be any direction, any length. Let's do it that way. Okay. And I would like to see the labels for all of these. So I have triangle ABC, and I have vector DE. And I want to translate triangle ABC along vector DE. So what you can do is you can go over here and you can translate by vector. Then you're going to select the object to translate and then select the vector. Much easier that time. And then you can do it again. So translate by vector, select the object. Select the object to translate. Well, I can actually select the whole thing. There we go. And you can translate. And you can translate the whole triangle in that vector. And again, if I drag this vector, C is mapped to C prime along vector DE. B is mapped to B prime along vector DE. And A is mapped to A prime along vector DE. No matter where I put that, it doesn't change how it's getting mapped. So that is what a translation looks like. It's basically just taking an object and moving it around the plane. And if we translate along a vector, it preserves the distance of the vector, and the vector tells us the direction to move the object.